Hello, and welcome to this presentation which aims to inform you about the reporting structure at Woodcote and the key points to consider when reviewing termly reports with your child. With the removal of the national curriculum levels for years 7 to 9, our school has moved away from a system which ascribes a single grade or what might be considered to be a label which reflects attainment at a particular stage, but instead looks to unravel progress that has been made by reviewing competency within the range of skills required for the longer-term success of each student in each of the subjects that they study. Learning and the assessment that reviews this should be seen as a climb, with each stage of the climb supporting students in mastering key competencies required across a range of skills. The aim of this is to support longer-term development of knowledge understanding for each subject of study. Each subject has an assessment grid, where the subject has been broken down into a number of skill or knowledge strands, which underpin the teaching and learning that takes place. Each strand is related to a mountain, starting at Snowdon, moving up through Olympus, Kilimanjaro, and finally Everest. The increasing height of the climb represented by each mountain supports the idea that the development of knowledge and understanding within each skill strand allows for the gradual build-up of demand and complexity to bring about progress over time. As you will see on this example from a section of the science assessment grid, Snowdon is split into 3 stages known as competencies, starting with Snowdon 3, with the top of Snowdon being Snowdon 1. The wording for each competency shows what is required in order to demonstrate it. For example, Snowdon 1 requires a student to identify and recall relevant keywords, but climbing onto Olympus 3 requires a student to use these keywords as part of descriptions. As will be discussed later, it is these subtle differences between competencies which allow students to progress but need to be unpicked as part of assessment review, not only within lessons but also at home when reviewing your child's report. The grids for all subjects can be found within the assessment booklet, which is on the school website via the Year 7 to 11 curriculum on the menu bar and on the options menu on that page once it's been selected. The report that you receive each term has 3 key features for each subject. The first is an attitude to learning score, ranging from 1, which represents outstanding, to 4 being unacceptable. The attitude to learning grid within the booklet outlines the key characteristics that students are reviewed against in relation to their approach to learning, for example, their level of organisation, their levels of independence and approach to working collaboratively. This part of the report and the indication of attitude to learning is very much the basis for unravelling what is supporting the academic progress that is being made. The second part of the report will show the allocation of competencies that a student has demonstrated through their termly assessment in each of the skill strands. It is more than likely that a student will show differing levels of competency within each skill strand for a subject, which again will form a key part of a discussion when reviewing the report. The final part of the report is a comment about the progress overall. This is done using a traffic light system, as you can see here, with progress being determined in relation to starting points at the beginning of the academic year for the first report of the year in the autumn term, and any subsequent reports reviewing the progress made from the previous term, so the previous report. When approaching the review of a termly report with your child, it's really important to keep at the centre of any discussion that the journey of learning is like climbing. Because at the end of the day, learning happens in stages, with some being more difficult than others, and any number of peaks and troughs being experienced within these. Alongside this, preparation and organisation are essential, and whilst having the right attitude on an independent basis will enable students to persevere with their personal climb, the support of others and proactively seeking this when necessary is an essential part of supporting their climb over time. So with this in mind, let's have a look at an example of an autumn term report. If we focus on English, we can see that student A is motivated, thus meaning they generally arrive to lessons on time, are positive in their approach to learning and are supportive of others. As can be seen, the student is an amber for progress overall. What is essential at this stage is that this reflection of progress is unpacked as part of the review of the report and not just taken on face value, as there are a number of contributing factors which have given rise to it. So if we look back at the 4 skill areas, we can see that the structure and organisation is an area where progress has been made as part of the English curriculum. And from the starting point, context, purpose and effect has remained in line with the starting point. But there are 2 skill areas where the student has not made progress and in fact taken a step backwards. Following this, the next stage is to engage in discussion with your child, making use of the assessment booklet to unravel why progress has been made in certain skill areas and why it hasn't in others. It is really important when looking at the report and using the assessment booklet alongside this to look specifically at what a competency is and what it specifically means. So what are the qualities and characteristics within that skill that your child has demonstrated in order for them to be at that point within that mountain range? For another skill area, why is it perhaps that they haven't quite made the progress that they have in that other skill area? Are there skills that could be transferred from one to another? Or are there specific stumbling blocks within the skill or the knowledge or the content that is required within that specific strand? Now, in addition to the academic side of the skill areas, it's actually also really important to review the attitude to learning, which very much supports the progress that is made. So for student A previously discussed, whilst they are motivated, perhaps they haven't been proactive in their independent study at home. So for a skill area where progress has been limited, perhaps additional time spent on homework or proactively using revision guides or study aids might support progress in a skill area next time round. There is indeed a lot to digest and reflect upon when reviewing a report. So to provide some insight into how reports may be reviewed at home, a parent and student of Woodcote have kindly taken the time to show us part of their discussion.
Welcome to the Woodcote High School video about assessment. In this video, we're going to see how a volunteer parent, Mrs. Maloney, and her son Isaac discuss the report that has been sent home. To help their discussion, they'll be referencing and looking at the booklet about assessment, alongside the colour-coded report, which looks at the progress that Isaac has made. For the purposes of this video, they will be looking at a fictional report and discussing what's gone well and areas for improvement. We hope that you'll find this video helpful in terms of guiding the discussions that you have with your son and daughter about their report.
Okay, Isaac, we have your report here. Shall we have a look and see what it's telling us? What do you think you've been doing well, and why?
With my attitude to learning, in most of my subjects, my attitude to learning is outstanding and sometimes motivated.
Okay. You're right, so there are lots of outstandings and lots of motivated, so that's really good. Why do you think you've managed to achieve outstanding in a great number of your subjects?
For instance, in music, I really enjoy music as a subject, and I enjoy doing all my music, and I normally put my hand up to contribute to the class.
Okay. As well as the motivated and the outstanding, we have an attitude to learning in one of your subjects identified as coasting. What do you understand by coasting?
For me, coasting means because in philosophy and theology, which is the subject I have coasting in, sometimes I forget my homework, and sometimes I don't bring all the correct equipment, and some of the time I get distracted.
Okay. And what is it do you think that you could do in order to change the coasting to motivated or even outstanding?
To try to remember my equipment and be more organised with my homework. I like looking at maps and investigating all the symbols and trying to find out what they mean, as in, an eye on the map would be an information point.
Mm-hmm.
As it's a new subject, I like to remember all of the information as I can for my next test.
Okay. And you have achieved a good mark in your test, and it's a new subject for you. You've really enjoyed that subject, have you?
Yeah.
So, Isaac, if we look at the your attitude to learning and your overall progress, can you identify that there is a link between the two?
Yes, because I really like geography, and my attitude to learning is outstanding, and my progress from my starting point was above expectation, and I really enjoy doing geography because I like investigating the map and trying to look at the little symbols and trying to tell what they mean, like the little eye on the map. stands for an information booth.
Okay. What else do you think has enabled you to achieve outstanding?
I always bring my equipment and my books to geography and all of the stuff that I need.
Okay. It's great, Isaac, that you're doing so well in the subjects that you really enjoy doing, drama and the music and the geography. Shall we take a look at some of the core subjects as well, and see how well you've done in those? So the core subjects being the English, the maths and the science. What do you think you understand from the report?
In my science, my attitude to learning is motivated, but my progress from my starting point, which was an O2, is significantly below expectation because my working mathematically area is only an O3, which is stopping me from getting on my expectation on my starting point.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's easily identifiable that that one strand has prevented you from exceeding or working in line with your expectation for science. Shall we have a look at what you can do in order to change that and hopefully achieve outstanding or in line with in the future? Okay, let's have a look through the book and find our subject, the science subject, which is here. So we have our science and we have the competencies listed, and along here are the skills or the strands. So at the moment, working mathematically in relation to science, you are 0-3 or Olympus 3. So we would find the 3 and we would work along, working mathematically in science. So at the moment it's describing that you are able to draw a graph or a bar chart. You're able to present your data. But the next level up, Olympus 2, you're required to interpret the data. So look at the chart that you've presented and interpret from it what it's telling you and be able to answer some of the questions in relation to that data that's been presented to you.
It's good that I need to move up because I can draw bar charts and make them neat and put all the information in, but I just struggle to find the information and answer questions using the bar chart.
What do you think you can do in order to make a difference?
I can look in the different columns at the top and try to find out what it is. So if it's how many boys like football, I can look at the amount of boys, and then I can look at the column where it says how many boys like football and try to look where it says that and not where it says how many boys don't like football.
Okay. And in terms of school, what resources at school have you got?
I've got resources at school like my teachers, and my teachers can explain to me where I need to look to get those key bits of information to answer the questions.
If we relate to the science and the working mathematically in relation to the graphs and the identification that you have an issue there and some work to do, if we look at the maths, can you see that there are some, if we look at the progress, you're working in line with expectation. But drawing on the science and the maths, we can see that there is that the graphs in maths is also pulling you down, and that in order to be outstanding, this is an area for development as well.
Because this is holding me down as well, because my starting point was an Olympus and my scoring graphs was only a Snowden, and I could also, if I tried to get my graphs up, then I can get above expectation, and then that I could also try to work on my shape and measure as well.
Okay, so you can see that there is a distinct link between the two, and that if you work on that area, then you could, as you said, be destined to achieve an outstanding or above expectation in that subject. So shall we have a look at the competencies and the skills in relation to maths? If we have a look on the maths page, so there is a couple of pages in relation to maths, and on the second page, if we go along the bottom of the skills, we've got graphs, and then we move up the Snowden 2. So currently you're able to plot coordinates using only positive numbers. So in order to move up a level, you would need to be able to do exactly the same thing,
But with negative numbers.
So what is it you think that you can do in order to be able to work better with the negative numbers and able to plot them on a graph and therefore move up a level?
I could try to look back through my book and see if there's anything that can help me, or I could ask my teacher for help, but there's something called Maths Watch that I could try to find a video on to explain how to plot negative numbers.
Finally, Isaac, let's have a look at English, which is broken down into English language and English literature. And I can see overall you're doing very well. Your attitude to learning in relation to both areas is outstanding, and in terms of English literature you're working in line with expectation. For the English language, it's indicating here that you're marginally below expectation. What do you think that you can do in order to achieve better in this area?
I found my English and language test really challenging, but in my next lesson I'm going to use my IACT and go back through my test to the paragraph that I didn't do so well in, and improve the vocabulary and make it the next level to see what it might look like.
Okay, that sounds like a really good plan. I think you've done really well overall, and it will be interesting to see the progress that you will make between now and the end of the spring term, and then we can have a look and compare your WAS report at Easter with this one and see what progress you've made.
Assessment forms an essential part of the teaching and learning that takes place at Woodcote every single day, so that we can best support the students in the progress that they make and in their academic achievement over time. As parents and carers, the role that you play is also an essential part of this, so we would like to thank you for the time you have taken in watching this video, as well as that you have taken in engaging with the communication that you receive in relation to your child's progress. If you have any further questions, please do contact the class teachers. If you have any subject-specific queries or for any general concerns, please contact your child's form tutor or head of year. Many thanks again for your time.